All right. I'm going to get going. My name is Sam Pardue. I'm the CEO and founder of Endo and also Clean Practice. Clean Practice is something that came out of the manufacturing industry, but it's designed and intended to be used by organizations of all types. Context. I think it's important to start with a conversation about where we're at. First, based on the science, COVID-19 is very likely to resurge in North America, possibly worse than the initial wave. What scientists are actually projecting is that every time there's a resurgence of the virus, and then we implement effective measures such as social distancing, it tends to subside, and as soon as those measures are released, it tends to resurge. And given that the base of the virus is much, much larger than when it started spreading in the United States in January, it's possible the resurgence could be significantly larger than the initial wave. Other things that we're discovering which are really important is that there is lasting damage in many survivors. So while the death rate lately has been discovered to be smaller than initially thought, the number of people who have lasting health complications is actually significantly larger than the death rate, and that information is going to become more widely known in the months ahead. There's also alarming stories about illness in children. So the effects of this virus are still being discovered, and it's scary for many, many people. And the net of this is that we are likely to be balancing safety and the economy for 18 to 14 months at least. That's assuming an optimistic scenario where a vaccine is rapidly identified and manufactured and distributed. So response speed is going to continue to be very important for everybody. And and just as it was the beginning, wherever you are in your COVID-19 response, having a really speedy and effective response remains really important. So the goals of this presentation are to let you, at the end of it, be able to create your organization's COVID-19 response plan and lead the plan implementation. We want you to also be able to lead what we call a clean Gemba walk, and identify and implement engineered solutions, which are ways to dramatically reduce or eliminate transmission vectors in your workplace. So in a sense, this is a leadership training program, and we're trying to cultivate and develop leaders here at Clean Practice. The method. There's a lot of laundry lists of measures that people should do in their workplaces, but it's kind of overwhelming. So what Clean Practice is providing is a structure to help you to understand how to tackle the issue of maintaining a safe workplace in your space. Clean Practice, like I said, it comes out of the manufacturing industry and it uses lean techniques. But instead of addressing inefficiencies, it identifies and reduces or eliminates COVID-19 transmission vectors. There's no need to be a lean practitioner to be really successful. Clean Practice is designed to be simple and quickly implemented. And the key foundational idea that Clean Practice is built on is that team involvement is the key to the best outcomes. You're not here today because you want to do the minimum amount that you can in order to make your workspace viable. You're here because you want to do a great job at it, and you want to do get a really great outcome. And we think that the best way to get a great outcome is by involving your people in identifying issues and creating solutions. Why are you here and what should you benefit? What are the benefits you can expect? Well, I think the most profound benefit is a safer team. A really systematic and thoughtful approach to workspace safety is going to have real benefits and could save lives. There also, however, is a very important benefit to team morale that comes about by having a really effective COVID-19 response plan implemented in your workspace. And that is a huge return on time invested from a financial point of view. Also, I think it's worth mentioning that if you handle COVID-19 really well, you have an opportunity to develop your organizational culture and take it to the next level. Conversely, if COVID-19 is not handled well in your organization, there's a real risk that things will deteriorate and you will have really unhappy employees and an acrimonious environment. So let's try to do a great job here with your COVID-19 response. Our goals are, and these are ambitious goals, are 0 COVID-19 transmissions in your workplace. This is very much kind of patterning after lean manufacturing, and a lot of lean manufacturing. The idea is you need to have measurable outcomes and then you know whether or not you succeeded in them or not. And 0 COVID-19 transmissions is super ambitious, but let's shoot for the very best outcome. And another thing that we want to shoot for is 100% workforce participation and satisfaction. That's incredibly important as well because we're after two things here: safety and happiness, or good morale. Those are the two things that we want to achieve with Clean Practice. That's our mission. As we consider how we're going to invest our time, we need to keep in mind that among the population of any organization of any substantial size will be many people who are more vulnerable than the average person. The early data from China indicated that the risks were much, much higher for people who are older. And also, if you have compromised health in any way, COVID-19 tends to exacerbate many existing health problems and combine with them, and that really increases the risk of mortality. So the odds are, if you have an organization that's larger than a handful of people, you will have people who are at higher risk or maybe in the highest risk categories. And we want to protect those people. And we want to keep them in mind as we gauge how vigorously we should respond within our organizations. And then there's the question of morale and what happens to your company as they continue operating in their workspace. As I mentioned, Clean Practice came out of the manufacturing sector. Endo is a manufacturer of custom window inserts that press inside existing window frames without a mounting bracket to block 100% of the drafts, to block noise. But each one of the inserts we make is a unique geometry. They're all custom shapes. And the window inserts need to be made in a very systematic manner. So we've had a lean culture in our organization, part of our company culture. But we like to measure things. So we did a survey of our employees recently and asked them, about morale and a bunch of other issues. But one of the questions that we asked our team was, how would you rate how Endo has handled the COVID-19 situation? And the response was really phenomenal. 10 was the best score, 0 was the worst. And we overwhelmingly got the highest possible score from our team. And I can speak from personal experience that by having a really effective response to COVID-19, it's really helped our team continue to perform really well. In fact, I would say, even in the midst of this pandemic, instead of responding with fear, and fear tends to shut down the human mind and prevent us from really being, forward and positive in our actions. The Endo team has been doing its best work ever over the past 8 to 10 weeks. And I kind of credit that to how well the team responded to COVID-19. We got everybody involved in the process. The actions that we took basically are the actions that we're going to describe to you later today, but the outcome has been very, very positive for our business. We've continued to operate really well. We're a manufacturing business, which is the reason why we didn't shut down. We can't possibly have, a fully distributed workforce. So doing really well in this meant a lot to us as a team, and the outcome has been a really great performance. Disclaimers, and this is really important. We complement but do not replace aggressive social distancing. In fact, social distancing is part of clean practice, and we support science-based decisions to reopen and vigorous social distancing in the workplace. Clean practice is based on an understanding of lean principles and information on COVID-19 from CDC, WHO, and other sources. Admittedly, sometimes that information has been flawed and the data continues to evolve, and we continue to work to update our documents. Clean practice is not endorsed by anybody. It's meant to serve as a guide during this rapidly evolving crisis, and we cannot guarantee eliminating disease. It's not going to be a magic cure-all, but COVID-19 ultimately is a numbers game. And what we want to do is keep on working at those numbers to improve the odds of really a good outcome, really, rather than a really bad outcome. So thanks for keeping that in mind as we move forward. So with that in mind, we're going to start talking about the 10 elements of clean practice, and we'll draw upon some examples from implementations that have happened. And what I want to say is that COVID-19 is spread almost entirely by human actions. And so human actions are the key to stopping COVID-19 from spreading in your workplace. So when you think about your COVID-19 response plan and how you're going to address it in your workspace, it's really about how do I organize and change human behavior. And some of those behaviors are long-standing behaviors. How do I change those behaviors in my organization? That's a huge challenge. And what Lean has taught us is that a good Lean implementation can be transformational for your organization's efficiency and the outcome. But good Lean implementations involve support from all levels of the organization. That is also true of clean practice. So by doing a good job of clean practice, it means that you're going to be really engaging everybody and you're engaging them in behavior changes. So with that as a proviso, let's get started. The first element of clean practice is you have to have a plan. So number one, create a plan. People need to see that you have an organized plan that is comprehensive. The COVID-19 action plan template that's available on our website is just a guide. It's meant to be downloaded, copy and pasted, and added to. In particular, the specific list of what's or the measures that you're going to be implementing in your workspace very often is going to have, there's going to be compliance regulations that are mandates from your state, maybe your city, that you should be including in that list. So it's not meant to be a completely exhaustive template. You need to incorporate whatever the state is mandating that you do. But really what we're trying to do is give you an organizational how. How do I roll this out? How do I engage people in this so that there's ownership of the outcomes by people everywhere in your organization, that everybody feels like they're part of the solution rather than receiving a top-down mandate of what you have to do. So it's a living document. It's been updated several times. And what we want to do is keep doing that, but learn from everybody as they do their own implementation in their own workspace. So we want you to remain in touch with us and send us an email. Let us know what lessons you learn as your plan encounters the reality of your workplace. So the COVID-19 action plan template has a number of different sections. It's meant to be kind of edit, search, replaceable, and what it's trying to do is give your goals, to kind of have some baseline factual information so that you level set everybody about, what is this virus? What do you do when you're sick? How should you behave when you're away from work? What to do, in the workplace when you're there. So it's got a number of different sections. We think any COVID-19 response plan should have at least this much information, but feel free to embellish upon it or send us questions if you have any questions about elements that you think are missing or are confusing. So, the plan is something that should be a living document also. You should think about it not as something that you fire and forget, but that you try to update as you engage your team and you start working on the solutions that you're implementing in your specific space. You should be documenting those in your plan. Building trust is so important. I think it's important at a national level. One of the reasons why the United States has had a failed response at the national level is because there's an all-time low level of trust in our society. And sadly, we have not been making the efforts we need to build trust at a national level. But within your organization, trust is just as important. Your team needs to know that you're on their side, that we're in this together, that we're going to work together to get to a great outcome. I've talked to a number of different organizations that are struggling with the question of how to reopen. And the people who are organizing their reopening feel a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of tension, and they need to win over the trust of their team that the plan that they have is a really good one. And so we recommend that the senior-most leaders are the ones who present the plan, that they lead demonstrations of effective hand washing in front of everybody, that you announce zone captains, so you're going to distribute at the moment that you share your plan with your team, which I think really should be very soon. If you've not already shared a plan with your team, you should go ahead and create a plan and share with your team. Or if you're reopening, it should be on the day that you reopen. You should be announcing and sharing your plan, or even before you reopen, you should be sharing your plan in a virtual meeting. But that is something where the senior-most leader presents the plan, and at that moment, what you want to do is be translating the plan into action. People need to see that this isn't just a plan that gets filed in a drawer. It's a basis of action that starts to happen right away. We recommend that one action that can happen right away is that you announce your zone captains, and we're going to talk about what zone captains are in just a little bit. And that in the announcement of this plan that you're emphasizing that clean practice protects your most vulnerable members and teammates. And you're going to make an ask. You're going to ask for immediate changes to lifelong habits. Don't neglect in presenting your plan to ask people to change the way they've been behaving for their entire lives. They have not been washing their hands for 20 seconds for every day up till now. You really need to make sure that they register that this is a change in how they're going to be moving forward. So make the ask. Everyone participates. Again, this is a great way to build trust, and that's a picture of yours truly at our factory. You can see that we've removed the doorknob on that door, and I'm going to participate in every clean practice behavior, and I'm going to demonstrate it for my team. I also recommend that the senior-most leaders participate in daily facility sanitation. Based on the most recent science that's available, there's more concern about airborne transmission of the virus than human to surface to human, although that remains a vector that we need to be very careful about addressing. But sanitization is a way of reassuring people psychologically, because a huge part of this is psychological, and we need to make people feel more comfortable in the space. So that happens when leaders demonstrate best practices and when leaders participate. And it really happens when everyone participates. So, and that also means everybody at every level of the organization, from the entry-level line workers all the way to the top. Let's find roles for everyone in this effort. So a great way to get lots of people participating is through the Clean Gemba walks. A Gemba walk in lean practice is a walkthrough. It's a visit through the space. So Genba in Japanese means space, and so it's a walk through the space. And on a manufacturing floor, you might have a team of the people who work there and senior management walking through the space and visually looking for and discussing problems, problem areas, friction points. Maybe you're noticing where inventory is piling up. That's often an issue that indicates a bottleneck in your manufacturing line. But a clean Gemba walk is basically a walk through your physical space to identify potential problem areas for disease transmission. And what we recommend is that you start out and you divide your space into zones. And a good way to do that is to create a map. And where do you have a map? Well, you should have in any facility your emergency evacuation map. So that's what we're looking at here on the screen is the Endo facility. And it's from our emergency evacuation map. We simply scanned it, and then I used some simple tools to draw these colored lines. Each color represents a different zone. We think that breaking up the zones around kind of common groups of people that kind of interact in that zone makes a lot of sense. So it's kind of a very physical thing, but it can also be an organizational thing, like who are the people who work together. And so your zones should have a logic to it. And each zone should have a zone captain. And the zone captain is the person who's going to be really organizing and responsible for the safety in that space. So we at Endo divided up our space in this way. Kind of my office is right here. This is the customer support and some R&D people. So it's kind of a cross-sectional area. This is the marketing, and then this is kind of R&D. But each zone had a zone captain. Each zone has different color stickers. So the idea is that you create this sense of ownership. But you also, so the team, the zone captain would organize a group of people from that area, and you'll walk through the space in a very systematic way. And you're going to label every touch point that is a common touch point where more than one pair of hands touches that surface in a 72-hour period. You're going to give it a brightly colored sticker. So if you're in the green zone, it's the green stickers everywhere. And you're going to document all those spaces, right? So there's a list. And this is a great way for people to know that you're going to have a very systematic response. So Gemba walks can involve a lot of people from a lot of different parts of the organization. And then you're going to create, based on the Gemba walk, a cleaning schedule. So it's a very simple technique. You want to walk in a spiral because that's the best way to kind of make sure that you're not missing anything at all. So the Clean Practice Gemba walk, we have a template that you can click to from the website, of course, and it basically has the instructions on how to do this. It's quite simple and easy to do, but it's something that you can do that's very visible, that engages people in your response right away. And in this Gemba walk, you're not only looking for touch points, you're also looking for social distancing issues. Given that COVID-19 is often transmitted through the air by people coughing or spitting, or not spitting, but typically, but coughing or sneezing, or maybe they're just talking loudly. That's enough to project, droplets through the air. And that's why social distancing mandates 6 feet apart between people, because that is what allows the droplets to fall to the ground instead of reach another person's face. There is concern also about aerosolization, which means that as people speak and exhale, tiny droplets that have less viral particles are building up in the air. So we're going to be looking for areas where there's maybe stagnant air, or where people get too close together for their work process. And we're gonna look for social distancing issues as we go on these walks. So we're gonna document those. The Clean Practice Gemba walk is quite simple. It has this opportunity to document the locations that are of concern. If you have a cleaning schedule, then different people can be in charge of cleaning. And again, we don't necessarily recommend outsourcing cleaning, the daily cleaning. We think that it's really great to get team members involved in the effort, because involvement creates ownership. Now, deploying visual factory. This is another concept from the manufacturing realm and Lean, which is that it's based on the idea that humans are visual creatures. We all need to, we have evolved to see things and to register things visually. So visual factory uses that in a factory setting to provide kind of visual cues on how a workflow should go, to make it easy to train people to do it, and to provide, high reliability that that process is going to be followed really precisely. It's a great way to ensure both efficiency and quality and safety. So in our case, we're going to use Visual Factory by having lots of nice signs around this facility that are engaging, that try to get people really kind of reminded of the best practices that they need to follow. And those stickers, those little stickers, this is from the Endo kitchen area, and you can see we have brightly colored stickers on different parts of different touch points. And what those things are saying is they're making sure that the cleaning is going to be done really well, but they're also going to be speaking to your staff, and they're going to say to your staff that you have a very comprehensive and aggressive approach to making a safe workplace. So we talk about the two goals of clean practice. One is safety. The other one is maintaining team morale. And those stickers are going to help your team feel safe. So don't stint on the stickers. They play a really, really important role. Next up, here is a sign that we have posted. I really like this because I believe very strongly that fear degrades our response. It's the mind killer. I don't know if anybody has read Dune or watched the movie, but fear is the mind killer, right? And this is actually a quote from Dune. I think they're going to come out with another movie version this summer. And it's fun to post this in your bathroom because as you read it, it kind of engages you in good hand washing techniques, but it also lets people know that they need to let their fear go. Because fear really degrades your team's performance. It keeps them from focusing on your mission. Plan, do, check, act, another idea from lean manufacturing. And a great thing for organizations of all types to do, and something that we don't always do really well. Why not really raise your game here and be very visual about your cleaning schedule and your follow through on it. So you're going to plan, you're going to create and share your plan, you're going to begin implementation immediately. You're going to check, you're going to track the execution of daily cleaning activities and document that they're being done. And senior leaders are going to continue to demonstrate best clean practices and ensure participation. Now, let's not stop there. Let's keep improving upon this great start that you've done. Let's use Kaizen to improve upon first efforts. Kaizen is a lean concept that is really about continuous improvement. It's amazing I never thought I would be running a manufacturing facility when I was back in the school. But manufacturing is awesome because there's this constant improvement in how you do things. It never stops. And it's so gratifying. It's like puzzle solving every day. And you get to improve your processes to make them more and more streamlined. Well, that of course can extend to your whole organization. But it's this mindset of nothing is ever perfected. You can always get better at it. So the first Gemba walk, it's kind of good for clarity to do the first one to just identify the issues and maybe not get bogged down in solving everything right away. But let's begin that process of identifying issues in the first one, but you should go and do a second one not too long after you do the first. And in the second one, you're looking for opportunities to eliminate transmission vectors altogether. It's a great opportunity to cross-pollinate. So why not have people from different parts of your organization, mix up team members, have them visit a different zone and do the second zone walk with the other team. And what this is going to do is get fresh eyes on the situation. Maybe you'll catch some things that you missed. At Endo, there was the watering can, right? That is a shared resource that we use to water everybody's house plants and or office plants. But we forgot to put that on the cleaning schedule, so we noticed that in our second Gemba walk. But we also started identifying opportunities to eliminate transmission vectors altogether, which is really great. So we put these little foot pads, homemade foot pads on the bottom of the refrigerator door. We took the handles off the refrigerator so you can no longer open it with your hands. That's called an engineered solution. And it's a good one to try and do. Now, we're also, again, we're looking for social distancing opportunities where you need to keep people from getting too close together. Um, this is another example of how you can reduce transmission vectors altogether. So at Endo, we really started worrying about those door handles everywhere, and some of the door handles we could not remove and replace with those hooks. So we actually invented a door handle adapter that allows people to operate doors without touching them with their hands at all. And so at Endo, we've actually put these up for sale. You can find them at endowindows.com hygiene-safety-products. And they're just a solution. We have different solutions for almost every different type of door handle now. So check it out. They're affordable, they're easy to install, and they're easy to remove when this crisis is finally all gone. But maybe they're going to be up there for a long time because people don't like getting colds or the flu either. So reduce transmission vectors wherever you can. Expand trust by extending protection to all your workers. Sick employees coming to work are the most important vector to address, right? So and what's really hard about this is that with COVID-19, at least 35% of people who are sick are asymptomatic. They're not showing any symptoms, but they are believed to be just as contagious as people who are symptomatic. So this won't address the issues altogether. That's why you have to have good clean practice, even if sick employees are staying home, but we really want people who are sick to stay home. So you may need to up your sick leave policy. You don't want people coming back to work before they're fully recovered. So if you feel it's necessary to extend your paid time off for people who are suffering from COVID-19, by all means do it rather than making them come back to work or making them try and work without a paycheck or survive without a paycheck. Accountability, again, super important for reinforcing trust. Communicate the status of company-wide participation. Make sure everybody knows that everybody else is participating. That is super important, kind of cognitively or psychologically. I like to ask for, at team members, ask people for a show of hands. So how many of you are changing the way you wash your hands at work? How many of you are changing the way you wash your hands at home? Right? Some people will not have changed the way they wash their hands. And but they'll raise their hands anyway, maybe. But what they're going to see is everybody else is raising their hands, and they're going to go, oh gosh, everybody's actually getting on board with this. So there's something about the visual kind of pledge of saying that I'm in, and other people seeing that they're in. Don't hold back on doing that. Leaders, of course, demonstrate best practices daily. You are not, I think the message here is that COVID-19 does not respect rank. It does not respect seniority. We're all in this truly together. And the better that everybody in the organization behaves and performs and clean practices, then the safer everybody becomes. And again, we want to reemphasize that participation by all employees enhances the safety of everyone. And we need to protect our most vulnerable members. A final idea, principle of clean practice is growth. All team members maintain, the goal is that all team members maintain clean practices at home. It's not just about work. If people are learning really good behaviors at work and taking them home, then the workplace is going to become safer. Your team is going to be safer at home. Ideally, each team member becomes an evangelist for really good behavior in society. The picture on the right there is from one of the Endo team members who lives in a shared home, as many, many people do. He's our our direct sales team leader. And he decided that it was a really good idea to get everybody, the 4 other members of his household, on board with a clean practice. So you can see that there's a sticker on the remote control of the TV, on the coffee table, on shared surfaces in their kitchen. They've had a good discussion at home about how to be safe, and that's really critical. We also really want to encourage more organizations to follow your leadership. And the more companies and organizations that are adopting really best practices, the safer off our communities will be. And without really great federal leadership on this, there's an opportunity for business to try to fill some of the gap. And you can encourage your teammates, your team members to take the templates home and share them with their housemates, and they can take them over to their companies or organizations and make sure that they have a good plan in place there. Workplace social distancing is really important part of what we're trying to do as well. That is a key element of clean practice. And the key elements of workplace social distancing includes everyone wears masks. I think that's really important. Based on what we've learned about the virus, masks are extremely effective at reducing the spread. And there's a real risk that aerosolization of the virus just by exhaling and talking can really add a lot of viral particles to the air. There's some, unresolved science here, but masks are known to dramatically reduce the buildup of viral particles in the air, and they certainly reduce kind of the projection of particles through coughing and sneezing or loud talking or laughing. you know, you don't want people to not be able to laugh at work. But you want to, as long as this virus continues to be really prevalent in our communities, we need to minimize the number of people at work. I'm doing this presentation from home because even though we have really good clean practices in place at Endo, we still know that every person who comes into work increases the risk of those people at work. But as people, as organizations do bring people back to work, it's going to be very important to maximize spacing and keep people a minimum of 6 feet apart. And that spacing, there's another variable to keep in mind, which is what is the airflow in this space? If it's a small space and there's no air circulation or exchange in that space, then more than 6 feet may be required, and you may need to time limit the amount of time that people spend in such spaces because you do not want to allow people to get a heavy dose of the virus, because heavy doses are what cause people to get sick, and they actually increase the intensity of the infection. One great way to minimize the number of people who work is to bring people in rotations or kind of shifting people in and out so that you're maintaining maybe fewer people in. You start to make a transition back to work rather than go all of a sudden all the way back to work. You're going to limit the headcount in common areas. You're going to reduce meetings and meet outside whenever possible. You'll use physical limiters and separators to ensure social distancing. Staggering shifts and breaks is a great idea. And also paid time before and after breaks for hand washing. We don't want to force employees to try and wash their hands on their break, because if you have a big line of people waiting to wash their hands, you're going to consume all of their break, and that's going to reduce compliance. It's going to encourage people to wash their hands really quickly instead of thoroughly. So let's do the smart thing here. And I think the Oregon Manufacturing Extension Program for some of this in these photos. So here's an example of how a company in a manufacturing space put down painter's tape to really communicate the minimum 6 foot spacing that was required on workstations. This is an example of limiting headcount in common areas. You physically reduce the number of chairs in this conference room to kind of make sure that there's not too many people in there. And, in fact, these people might need to push their chairs back a little bit from the conference table to get the 6 foot spacing. Meeting outside is a great idea. The airflow is so much better there. The risk is so much lower outside than in inner contained areas. Using physical separators and limiters, I think the example of the conference room chairs down there is a great one. It really sends a strong, again, it's a visual message. It's like, this is not allowed, right? It reinforces that these changes that we're asking people to make are real. There's always going to be some recalcitrant people in a large organization who think they know better when they don't. And, we need to be kind of, very visual and very systematic in trying to provide guidance to ensure compliance. And we recommend you start today. There's no time like the present to get going with your clean practice. We've tried to provide tools to allow you to do so, but we really want you to stay in touch with us. Clean practice just as in your organization, you need participation from everybody in order to do it really effectively. Clean practice is a volunteer effort that needs to be broadened in order to match the scale of the challenge that we face. So far, we haven't seen too many efforts to promote excellent outcomes in reopening safely and kind of a system to do it. But clean practice, to become what it needs to be, needs more people involved. So we want to invite you to stay in dialogue with us. The very minimum that we would ask is to respond to a survey that lets us know about the unique challenges that you're facing in your workspace. We would love to get photographs from people from their implementations or ideas about how you've solved unique challenges in your workspace that might do with tricky social distancing issues or ventilation. For instance, at Endo, we have exhaust fans that can exhaust air. And given the most recent science about COVID-19 transmission, it's very clear that having maximum air circulation is a really helpful way to make sure that there's not a buildup of viral particles. So we are running our exhaust fans all the time to make sure that there's a constant flow of fresh air. We've really maximized that. So that is something that, it's a great idea of a new practice that we've developed in response to new information. We need to keep clean practice up to date with the latest science, but also with the best practices. Because what's happening is people are tackling this challenge in their individual organizations. They're doing the best that they can. What we need to do is facilitate learning from one organization to the other, and we would like clean practice to be able to do that. I saw a question directed to me about what the URL was for the door handle adapters, and it's endowindows.com/hygiene-safety-products. Okay, well, thank you guys for being here today. Good luck with your clean practices. Please be in touch. We will send out a survey and look forward to hearing from you in the near future. Bye-bye.